The Bible contains the mind of God, the state of man, the way of salvation, the doom of sinners, and the happiness of believers. Its doctrines are holy, its precepts are binding, its stories are true, and its decisions are immutable. Read it to be wise, believe it to be safe, and practice it to be holy. It contains light to direct you, food to support you, and comfort to cheer you. It is the traveler's map, the pilgrim's staff, the pilot's compass, the soldier's sword, and the Christian's charter. Here, paradise is restored, heaven opened, and the gates of hell disclosed. Christ is its grand subject, our good the design, and the glory of God its end. It should fill the memory, rule the heart, and guide the feet. Read it slowly, frequently, and prayerfully. It is a mine of wealth, health to the soul, and a river of pleasure. It involves the highest responsibility, will reward the greatest labor, and will condemn all who trifle with its sacred contents. Pray it in, read it through, live it out, and pass it on.
Finally, Pharaoh agreed to let the children of Israel go. Let's read Exodus chapter 13, verses 17 to 21. Then Pharaoh had let the people go. God led the people around by the way of the wilderness of the Red Sea. And the children of Israel went up in orderly ranks out of the land of Egypt. And the Lord went before them by day in a pillar of cloud to lead the way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light. God was the one that led the children of Israel out of Egypt. There wasn't road signs, there weren't maps at that time, so they didn't know where to go. But God was their leader, and God led them on the way that they should go. And how did He do that? He was a pillar of cloud in the day and a pillar of fire for them at night. Wow, it was an awesome thing to see God leading the people of Israel at that time. Now, this verse also tells us that God led the people around by the way of the wilderness of the Red Sea. And this Red Sea was a huge body of water that they could not cross over. And the problem was that now, facing this Red Sea, Pharaoh had changed his mind, and he had decided to pursue after the children of Israel with chariots and horsemen. They were ready to make war and kill the children of Israel. The children of Israel were slaves. They didn't have weapons. They didn't have any kind of war weapons that could protect them. There was no way that they could fight and win. But God was their protection, and God protected them. So behind them was the army of Egypt, and in front of them was the Red Sea. It seemed like the children of Israel had nowhere to run. But let's read Exodus chapter 14, 9 to 26 and 28. And the angel of the Lord, who went before the camp of Israel, moved and went behind them. And a pillar of cloud went from before them and stood behind them. So it came between the camp of the Egyptians and the camp of Israel. Thus it was a cloud and darkness to the one, and it gave light by night to the other, so that the one did not come near the other all that night. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord caused the sea to go back by a strong east wind all that night, and made the sea into dry land, and the waters were divided. So the children of Israel went into the midst of the sea on the dry ground, and the waters were a wall to them on their right hand and on their left. And the Egyptians pursued and went after them into the midst of the sea, all Pharaoh's horses, his chariots, and his horsemen. Now it came to pass in the morning watch that the Lord looked down upon the army of the Egyptians through the pillar of fire and cloud, and He took off their chariot wheels so that they drove them with difficulty. And the Egyptians said, "Let us flee from the face of Israel, for the Lord fights for them against the Egyptians." Then the Lord said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the sea, and the waters may come back upon the Egyptians, on their chariots and on their horsemen." Then the waters returned and covered the chariots, the horsemen, and all the army of Pharaoh that came into the sea after them. Not so much as one of them remained. It seemed like God led the children of Israel to the Red Sea, a seemingly impossible obstacle to cross. But sometimes God will lead us to seemingly impossible things in our lives only to set the stage for the greatest miracle. God parted the Red Sea. Can you imagine the children of Israel walking through dry land, and they had two sides of them, the sides that they were in, there were walls of water, and they could put their finger in it, maybe reach in and, kind of touch a coral, or reach in and take out a starfish, and there was just walls of water on their right and on their left, and they walked through dry ground. It was a miracle. God continued to lead the children of Israel and provided for them in the wilderness. God provided for all the needs of the Israelites. Going through the wilderness and living in the desert, there was no food, there was no water, and it was difficult for them to find water, but God made bitter waters sweet, and God provided miracle water for the children of Israel to drink. God rained down manna. Manna was bread from heaven, and quail. The children of Israel actually complained when they didn't have meat to eat, and all they had was bread. And God rained down quail that they might have meat. God provided miracle food for the children of Israel. When there was no water, God provided water from a rock. Again, He provided miracle water. This brings us to key number 5. If we follow God with obedience, He will supply all our needs.